All right, so welcome back to Out of the Rut. I'm Xavier.
I'm Ron.
And today we're going to be interviewing a good personal friend of mine, Osiris, aka Osiris the Skater.
What up?
He dabbles into the tennis life. He works in music. So we're just going to get to learn a little bit about him and learn about his story. And hopefully by the end of the podcast or the episode, you get to understand maybe how you can get started into those fields and be as successful as our man Osiris is. Osiris, first, without getting too much into detail about, the tennis or the music just yet, tell us a little bit about your background, man. Like, tell us where you're from, just a little bit about you.
Sweet. So yeah, my name is Osiris. You know that. Actually a good friend of mine. And, I was raised on the south side of Chicago pretty much, born in the neighborhood of South Shore. And I was homeschooled growing up. So being homeschooled, I was really limited in a lot of the activities that I had exposure to, because a lot of things that you wanted to get involved with, you require some sort of high school ID, or you require some sort of identification that's showing that you was actually a part of a high school. So considering I was homeschooled, it was an accredited school, but again, my resources was quite limited. And so I really just had to get involved in different programs, like extracurricular activities, like after school matters was a big portion of my development when it came down to like getting exposed to different other resources and things of that nature. And so I got a couple of summer jobs and things like that, which kind of ventured me into these different extracurriculars like skating and tennis and music and so forth and so on. But yeah, in a brief synopsis, that's kind of like who I am.
Absolutely, man. And before we get too deep into this, I definitely want to give a shout out to Wilson. We're going to be we're recording this currently at the address 60 East Walton Street, where the Wilson store is. So shout out to Wilson for letting us use their space.
Shout out to Wilson.
Heck yeah, nice scenic environment. Let's cook. Nice scenic environment to be able to record in. So shout out to them before we definitely get too far into this. But heck yeah, no, thanks for letting us. Thanks for sharing a little bit about you and just a little bit of that backstory. We'll start off with the tennis stuff, because obviously being here at Wilson and being surrounded by the tennis environment, it's just got those juices flowing. At what point in your life did the tennis begin to become prevalent for you? Like, was that something you always knew you wanted to get into? Was that something you just woke up one day and was like, yo, I just want to be a tennis player. Let's try it.
Nah, man, real deal Holyfield. I couldn't afford tennis. You know what I'm saying? I had no real access to this extremely expensive sport. So it came off to me as something that just was like so far beyond my reach. But then again, like I was saying, I got involved in certain extracurricular activities. Tennis was actually a portion of one of those extracurriculars. So through After School Matters, I was maybe 14 years old. And, considering I was homeschooled, I really didn't have any jobs. I'm growing up on the south side, and I'm like, man, it's time to put some money in my pocket. What can I do that's going to lead me into a different area of success? And so I had a mutual friend, and she said her uncle used to run a summer camp through After School Matters, and he was looking to bring in people as apprentices and interns. And so I said, hey, do you need me? And they was like, hey, if you want to put in an application, I'll tell my uncle to pull it. So I went off to my mom and I asked her, like, hey, mom, can you look over this? She said, sure. She looked over it, and needless to say, I got hired that summer.
Oh, good.
So when I got hired, I was, it was just like being homeschooled and going into an environment where it was such a hustle. It was so many people, so many different activities, so many things that I could get involved in. But the coach, he saw me, and when he saw me, I saw him. We kind of locked eyes. We had this moment of like handshakes. His name is Daoud Talib. Shout out to Daoud Talib. That's still my current coach to this day.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so we still keep in touch.
Got some history.
Man, he played a very pivotal point in my life, and I can't thank him enough for the things that he's instilled in me, just wisdom-wise,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, through that, he was like, this is a sports camp, but Osiris, I want you on the tennis portion. So I was just like, cool, you know what I'm saying? I was like, cool, I'm about to see what's up. So, we go down to the tennis courts. At the time, this place that I was in, they was renting tennis courts inside this facility called Valley's Total Fitness. And they had maybe 4 or 5 courts or something like that. So the last 2 courts was the tennis courts, and the other courts was just like soccer, flag football, basketball, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Man, I walked straight past all that stuff, and I went straight down to the tennis portion. And I was just like, I'm here, what's up? And so, yeah, that's kind of like the introduction to it. I didn't really see tennis as a whole until the next year. That year I was just getting acclimated. I was understanding like what this thing was. but it wasn't something that turned me on just yet. I was still curious, but I knew there was more to it.
Yeah.
And so that year, it was a lot of just hand feeding balls to kids, just like red ball, orange ball type stuff. And I'm throwing balls. I grab a racket. I hit the ball into the lights or whatever the case may be.
That's how I play tennis for sure. Still play tennis that way.
That's funny. And so when that program was over the next year, I got rehired. And as an apprentice, the first year I got rehired as an intern. And when that happened, we had moved to a different location. And now this is when it really sparked for me, because when we moved to that different location, I ended up having access to see the high performance program. And when you see this program, it is a completely different level of intensity when it comes down to how people are striking that ball. It's fascinating, right? And so as a kid that was curious, and I was a very quick study, being homeschooled, I just really latched on to it. And I'm not 100% sure if it was the individuality of the sport, but it was something about just hitting that ball. I felt cool.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, man, these guys look amazing and they feel good doing it too. I said, I want that same feeling. And so through there, I just, I really just stuck to it like glue. I stuck to it like glue. And then one day I went back home, and my mom, she asked me, she said, Osiris, you're about to be 16, or I was 15 at the time. She said, you're about to be 16. I don't want you to be pressured about college, but I do want you to start thinking about it. Just put it in your
future, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the time where you need to start thinking about this. And so I said, okay. I was like, all right, I'm going to try to figure something out. I went back to the club, and one of the coaches there, I believe her name was Veronica, she, I heard her talking about her students and them getting scholarships. Being homeschooled, I really wasn't knowledgeable about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I eventually just asked her, what's a scholarship? And she said, it's when the school will pay for you to go and play for them. And I just kind of associated the two. My mom, school, college.
My mom said school, you said money.
You said money, and then you said college, and then I'm trying to figure out, how do I do this? Like, teach me the ways. And so she said, well, in order to get, consideration for a scholarship, you have to play like this. She pointed to this kid, and he was slapping that ball.
And how old was this kid?
Man, the kid had to be like 14, 15, 16, in that same range that I was at, right?
Yeah.
But his skill level was significant. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I just looked at him for a second, and I'm staring at him, and I'm like, oh yeah. I said, you know what? I know that I can do that, and I can do it better than that. And so I just trained for the next 2 years.
The competitive side comes out.
Man, the grit came out, man. And so I just trained for like the next 2 years. I really just blacked out, being homeschooled. I had access to a lot of court time.
Yeah.
I ended up picking up another job at the facility, being in the concession stand. And so with a protein, the smoothie bar or whatever the case may be. Sure. So I was making smoothies and stuff, but that also gave me access to the courts. And so from there, 2 years later, I get a call. The same coach who said about the scholarship, she introduced me to this coach that was picking up teammates. And so I got the call, and he said, hey, you wanna play? We're recruiting. I said, absolutely.
You're like, can't say no to that.
Can't say no to that. And so we met up maybe a few days later, and then we played. I beat him like 6-0.
Hey, humble brag.
Humble brag, just, quiet. And so he said, I'm going to talk to my athletic department and see what's up. About an hour later, he texted me saying we can offer you a full tuition scholarship to college.
Damn.
And so
That's dope.
Dude, that's dope. For lack of a better phrase, man, that's badass. Like, can't pass up on that free money.
That's free moolah, baby.
Yeah, so, I do have a question about that. You bring up, obviously, being homeschooled played a big factor in what resources you had access to and things like that. And there's a lot of debate around like going to private school, public school, homeschool, the differentiation between them. Do you feel like being homeschooled was an asset or a hindrance, or maybe somewhere in the middle in terms as it pertains to your introduction to the tennis world and having access to the same things that maybe other kids were having access to?
I think at the time I looked at it as a hindrance.
Sure.
But I absolutely think that being homeschooled gave me a very clear and a very concise understanding of who I was.
Sure.
And I believe in the long term that really helped me out a lot, because even nowadays, going into my 30s, I feel like I have a good awareness of self, and I feel like I've gained this awareness in my younger years. And so at the time, of course, you feel like this kid, you're missing out. You know, your friends are going to prom, they're going to homecoming, they're doing all of these things.
Checking all like the milestones of every kid that grows up and stuff on television that you see. It's like they're hitting all the milestones.
Exactly. And I'm just sitting there looking at it, you know, and then, you know, due to my religious background, my upbringing, my mom, she wasn't really fond of doing any of this stuff. She was like, no, you're not going to do that. And I was just, you know, so as a kid growing up in that world, you absolutely feel like you're being hindered. But again, she gave me a good balance between having access to things like after school matters, where I could get the tennis job and have access to like groups of kids and people, my peers that were around my age and things of that nature. And then just like the high school stuff, you know, I was kind of socially held back, I want to say, just in terms of the way that I engaged with others. So, you know, there were some skills that I really had to develop over the time, but it wasn't any skills that I felt like was detrimental to my overall development and skills that I knew for a fact that later on in life I was going to have a key understanding of what they were.
Got it.
So, yeah, it was kind of like, at the time it felt bitter, but it was all really sweet.
Yeah,
you know, so
it wasn't malicious, and at the end of the day, like there were just things that there. You know, on the opposite side of it, there are things you have access to that I'm sure kids who are going to public school didn't have access to. Cause like the time, especially, like you know, when you're locked into a building, school for 6 hours a day, it only leaves a small window of court time and stuff. Whereas if you're homeschooled, it's like, hey, you're a little bit more flexible,
right?
You know, you can kind of pick and play. No, that's awesome. So before I want to continue down this story because I'm just kind of enjoying it, but. Just so our audience base kind of knows what you do now as it pertains to tennis, like what from a professional standpoint, like what do you do in the tennis world as of right now professionally?
So I'm a professional teaching pro at Midtown Athletic Club in Chicago. We're one of the biggest indoor tennis facilities. We hold 16 indoor courts, and I've been teaching there for some years now. And so in the professional space, when it comes down to tennis, that is my main thing that I do. I also have a partnership with Wilson. I have a sponsorship with them and also a brand ambassadorship. So just through the whole entire tennis world, it has given me access to these brands that, you know, of the old have come back to the new. And not saying that Wilson has ever declined, but in this day and age, Wilson has been like one of the leading forces when it comes down to tennis, in my opinion. Yeah. Because of just the transition and evolution that they've had over the last, I want to say, like 6 to 12 months.
I mean, they're pretty synonymous with all things tennis. Like you can't really say tennis anywhere without Wilson being in the top couple of companies' brands that you talk about.
Absolutely. So needless to say, I feel really blessed to be a part of the team, especially the Wilson team on different levels. Like my sponsorship is through Midtown as a teaching pro, you know, and having full-time hours, we're able to get sponsorships. So they send us packages and things like that, which is great. And it gives me a chance to like test certain things, you know, see different rackets and, you know, just get my hand really in the pot of tennis. Full spectrum. And then on the brand ambassador side, it really gives me an opportunity to see like the latest clothing and, you know, to be able to promote this stuff to other people and kind of help expand the brand in such a way that, you know, has success for everybody.
Oh, for sure. So carrying on where you left off, you know, you get this full ride scholarship. Pick up from there. You go to college, right? You're playing tennis. Like, how did the college years for Osiris look like?
Man, the college years for this guy was it was a little bit of a culture shock. I want to say, is my mic good?
I still got you.
All right. It was a little bit of a culture shock, I will say, because just being involved in this homeschool space where it was me in a basement with my siblings and maybe a couple of other people periodically here and there, to go into a full-blooded college environment where you're in a classroom, you have deadlines. And we had deadlines in homeschool too, but you go to this environment, you got everything is just different, and then still trying to balance and maintain being a full-time student as well as a college athlete. That's a really big deal for me, you know, and so I had to adjust. It took me a little while to adjust. You know, I wasn't.
That transition seems very overwhelming.
I mean, extremely. That's a great word to use. It was extremely overwhelming. But, you know, I believe in flow state. You know, sometimes when you just enter this state of flow, it's like things that can appear to be overwhelming become comfortable, because you've just like endured so much like stress with it prior to actually living it. Now you're living it and you realize it's not as stressful as you thought. So then you start to enter this flow state. And so I was really just in a flow state, especially being on a scholarship. I knew I had to maintain, I think at the time they said you had to maintain like a C average to retain, to keep your scholarship. So I was like, My mom ain't pressuring me to get all A's or B's. So I was like,
You're like, I can get C's now? We're cooking. I'm
like,
good.
What? C's get degrees, you know? So I'm good with it. So yeah, so I was just going through. I was taking full-time credit hours, and I was taking certain classes that I was like not necessarily fine with, but I was fine with a lot of other classes. And then we'd have practice once a day and maybe matches like 2 or 3 times a week. Yeah. So it was a huge balance that I had to understand within myself as well, and see what schedule worked best with me to fit around the schedule that they set for us. And that was pretty hard. We had to factor in like PE classes and things like that. We had to do a couple of, maybe like an hour a day in the gym. And then we had practices. And so it was tough. I will say that it was tough, but you know what they're saying, only the strongest will survive. And so I feel like I survived quite well.
Heck yeah. Were there any and Ron, feel free to interject if you have any questions. I'm just kind of going off the cuff, just following the train of thought we're going down. Were there any like classes in the collegiate space that you felt like really benefited you in your tennis career, or outside of just practicing and playing matches? Were there any classes that you took where you're like, okay, I took this class and I could see how this applies to my tennis career now? Or was it sort of just like, hey, I'm here for the full ride, I'm here to play, I just want to check the boxes of X, Y, and Z?
I would say that one of the biggest classes that I've taken that really, to this day, if I ever go back to school, I'm going to go back for this specifically, is psychology. That class, the study of human behavior.
Yeah.
And I can say that my economics class took a decent little portion into it, but specifically psychology. Psychology is a different animal. The understanding of the way humans are and the reasons behind the things that we do is really translatable to when you're on that court. It's a patience and a discipline game.
I imagine there's an understanding through studying psychology that you have for yourself, right? Psychologically as a player, but also like the psychological game of the opponent you're facing off with too. It's like if you have that understanding of psychology, I imagine it is probably a huge asset on court of like, hey, I know I'm not going to get myself rattled because I understand psychologically how I operate, but also I want to get in my opponent's head too, and like, how do they psychologically operate?
1000%. Yeah, and that's, I call it collecting data.
Collecting data.
When you're on that court, there's no rush to get into the things that you want because it's going to happen. So you have to be patient enough to see that setup forming. Yeah. And when you see it, you just have to be aggressive with the way that you attack it. And I feel like that's life. It's like through my experiences in tennis, I was never really taught tennis. I was taught life through tennis, which started psychologically before I even got into a psychology class. And so in the later years of my development, I understood that, these are things, it's all coming back full circle now, because here's the understanding, the key understanding by the book, but I've already had this. I just didn't really know how to put it in those terms that you use when you're inside of a college setting, and so, life through tennis is my motto, tennis above the neck. Shout out to my coach, Daoud.
Dude, gotta always respect where you came from, man. Yeah. Always respect where you came from. And then, so you've been in the tennis industry for a long time, professionally. Obviously, like you talked about, you do the branded thing. Like, is there a version of this career that you've kind of set yourself down that doesn't involve needing to go to college for? Like, the reason I like to ask this question is because I'm a little bit of I don't have a degree myself. I went to college for a couple years, hated it. I went to musical theater college, which is part of the reason why I don't think I cared for it too much. But I think that a lot of industries and a lot of what society kind of pushes us towards is like this idea that you need a college degree in order to be successful. And I think especially in the age of technology that we're in right now, that's not always the case because there's so many resources out there. Right. Do you think there's a version of you here right now with, coaching tennis, with, playing tennis and being this presence with Wilson, whether it be for brand ambassadors, et cetera? Is there a version of that lives without the college experience? Or do you think that the college experience really is integral in order to get to where you're at currently right now?
I'm going to say this, and this is just for any younger viewers that are listening, that might listen. There are any people that follow me that I might post this to.
Sure.
Stay in school, kids.
Stay in school.
I'm gonna say that. Stay in school. I want the mic to peak when I say this. Stay in school. However, I dropped out.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I dropped out. That was my path. I do not encourage people to take that same path if you do not have a true plan about how you're going to operate. Because once you drop out, you are thrown to the wolves, and it's you against the atmosphere. And it always wins. You know what I'm saying? But you win if you understand where your goals are. And so if you don't take the traditional route, you have to have a very key plan about where you see yourself and what success looks like to you in increments and in strides. And so when I can kind of say that my coach used to tell me something to ride your racket as long as possible. And I never really understood what that meant, and so, but I did it, and through me just kind of like taking this surfboard of a racket with me, I was just riding that thing all the way until like it stopped me, and what I mean by stopped me is that I took the thought of being intentional with the way that I was riding it now. And so in order to get to my level, do you need, to answer your question directly, like, do you need a college degree to do the things that I've done or what I'm doing now in tennis? No. Personally, I don't believe that you do. You may need certifications,
sure.
with the PTI,
educations
USPTA.
and stuff.
Yeah,
for sure.
You definitely need education so you can know how to operate. But in terms of like a degree that's going to tell you how to do this, no, you don't need that. It just kind of helps in terms of like the credentials that you bring to the table.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want that question to be looked at as like, we hate college around here, don't go to college.
Yeah,
but like we definitely
go to college, kids.
Yeah. Like if college speaks to you, go to college, But like I definitely think that it like for me personally, like I think there are some people who operate with the mindset of like, hey, you know what, like college is great for X, Y, and Z, but I think I want to just get out there and make something happen. And it is possible. It is possible. There's other hurdles you're going to face, to your defense, like to your point, like you're going to be faced with a lot of other hurdles. Like you're going to be competing with people who potentially have degrees, and are these employers you're looking at going to preferentially give those people a leg up over you? Sometimes that might be the case, but there is a version that exists outside of college if that's really not what you like to do, or that's not just speaks to you,
Yeah, college is tough, and I will say it's not for everybody.
Yeah,
it's not for everybody, but it's definitely for the people that do go through college and have, get to the point where they get bachelors and masters and PhDs and things of that nature. I have a outstanding amount of like just like appreciation for those people, because it's like that's y'all did it, and somewhere down inside of me, I still want to do it.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And so when I see somebody do it and they graduate, one of my close homies, he's in music right now. He's on the way to get his master's at a school in Texas, and I've seen him through like the bachelor's portion. I've seen him through like I need to take a break. And I've also seen him through getting into the master's portion of things as well. And I just look at him every day and I just be like, yo, you are doing it. You know what I'm saying? You're chasing your dreams as well through music, but you're sitting over here and you're pursuing this college education as well. And that's speaking volumes. And it speaks volumes to me, whether he knows it or not. I just be like, yo, man, you inspire me to be great in the fields that I'm in. It might not be in the traditional educational route, but it's inspiring to be great in whatever that I'm doing,
Yeah. No, love it, man. And next question for you. Can you recall a time when maybe throughout your tennis career where you felt like, damn, sometimes I just want to quit and I just want to give this up, but like essentially the steps you maybe have taken for yourself to be like, hey, you know what? Like I get that I'm feeling this now, but this is still what I want to do, and this is still what I'm passionate about. And that whatever steps you've taken to keep you motivated in the field so that you don't feel that burnout, or that even if you feel the burnout, you're able to pull yourself out of it and keep on going and keep excelling in this field.
Yeah, I could say more so in like the early stages is when I felt that, because you got to understand, tennis is a sport where it's like if you're not pro by the age of 12, you're not gonna make it.
Yeah,
you got to understand, like, and it's a very hardcore realization. Like, oh, you have to be pro, by the age of 12 years old. At 12 years old, you remember what y'all was doing at 12?
Not pro in anything.
You know what I'm saying? Still figuring it out.
Yeah.
And so it's like for that type of pressure to be put on people, like, no, you have to have a significant rating. By the time you're 12, when you're 12, you have to be top 100 in the country. Oh, screw top 100. You need to be top 30 in the country. I'm 12 years old. You know what I'm saying? And so I came in too. I started the summer job when I was 14, but I really didn't start taking tennis serious until I was 15. So I came into this thing as like a 14, 15-year-old kid that had no knowledge about what I was doing. Yeah. You got to understand that was not easy to bear. Like, because some pros that was here who were training these kids that were a top 100, top 200 in the country, and they were the top tier kids at the program. Like, these coaches, and it wasn't many of them who would do this, but I totally got the vibes of, hey, man, you're not going to make it. You're late. You need to give up that dream. It even got so bad to the point where one of the coaches whose name I will not say, but one of the coaches literally told me like, Osiris, you're not gonna go pro. You're not gonna make it in a good D1 college. You're just not. So you might as well put that dream to rest right now. And that was almost what he said verbatim.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there, and, as a kid, still figuring himself out.
Those are crucial words to hear when you're that young, man.
Dude,
It's
it crushed me. Because I'm like, you see me here every day. The only thing that I need is just a little encouragement, because I can do this. I might not be able to do it at the D1 Big Ten level, but I can do this. And, you don't know where I would go if you just encouraged me a little bit more. I had encouragement from my coach, Outoftherut, but other coaches were just some, not all. I can say I have a heathen amount of coaches around me that was encouraging, because they saw me. But there were some coaches as well that was just like, you're hopeless. You start this too late. You're not going to, you don't have a financial backing to help you get through this, because tennis is extremely expensive. There was a saying that if you don't dump $100K into your kid every year just for their tennis alone, they're not going to make it.
Dude, that's insane.
I'm making $500 a month for working a summer job, and this was like in the form of like a $250 stipend. You take taxes out, now I'm taking home like $235 or something like that.
Yeah.
You talking about $100K a month? I mean $100K a year?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. When you're that young, you're thinking I'm never gonna see that much, even over the course of my lifetime.
Ever. Like you can't even fathom what $1,000 looks like in front of you, just like laid out in your palm. So
you get $100 in your hand, you feel like you're the richest guy in the room.
I remember the first time I seen a $20 bill, I lost it.
Lost your mind, man. So I'm hearing these kids, these parents and stuff talk about $100K a year. I'm like, there's a K in front of this thing?
You're like, when did we start throwing letters in our money? What's up?
What is this about? So yeah, man, it was quite discouraging. And I think a turnaround moment from the discouragement was just me constantly seeing myself get better.
Yeah.
And I go by a philosophy is 1% every day for 100 days is 100%. You know what I'm saying? And so you mark that time the way that you want to, but as long as you're constantly making small improvements in the grand scheme of things, you're going to see the big picture. But you got to know what that looks like. I know that my mom told me that I need to start thinking about college a little bit. And I'm going to tell you the breakdown very simplistically. Like, I think life is simple if we stop listening to the noise, just focus on the things that matter and that make sense to us.
Yeah.
And so, 100, I heard my mom, she told me about college. I went back to the club. This is 2. I went back to the club. Coaches was talking about scholarships. I asked the coach what a scholarship was. They said, this is what it is. And then I said, how do I do that? And they showed me an example of what it looks like. And I just put those 6 things together. And I was just like, okay, this is what it needs to look like. So you're telling me if I can't hit a ball like him, I won't be considered to go to play for a college. I may be considered to play for college, but I won't be able to get the scholarship for it. They're like, correct, got you. So my mind was only set on being able to hit a ball like that.
Yeah.
And so I had my vision, and then I accomplished it. And not only did I accomplish it, but I did very well in college too. So I was like, that's a blessing, And so, that was kind of like a turning point when I saw myself being able to hit that ball.
That's kind of the cool thing too, is like, it seems like everyone gave you just a little nugget of information that essentially all sort of funneled into this idea that like, boom, this is what I need. My mom said to look at this person said I need this. I asked him how to get it. They told me, and boom, it all just sort of funnels into this one, essentially this one cataclysmic event that now has led you to this point. Yeah, crazy man. How that works, man.
Dude,
just
life is life.
a little, just a couple sentences from 3 or 4 different people, and it changes the whole course of your life, man.
The nuggets of life, man. But can I just say one quick thing about
Absolutely,
that?
dude. You could say 5 or 6 quick things, man.
The nuggets of life. It's again, this is backed by a little bit of who you are, a lot of bit of who you are. It's kind of like if I tell you guys something about your podcast setup, then it's like, okay, I might have not liked everything that he said, but I can take that one thing that he said and I can apply it. So I think sometimes as people, we get caught up in like the bigger nugget and we stop focusing on the nugget that applies to us. You know what I'm saying? And so when I was given these nuggets throughout my life, they could have taken me elsewhere, right? But again, this comes with a kind of a clear understanding of who you are and what you want. And those nuggets, I learned how to apply them to what I wanted in the moment. It's about being present to yourself and being present to the goals that you set for yourself. And then you just have to unapologetically and just very ruthlessly attack those goals. despite the adversity that's inevitable. When you're going for something extreme, you're going to come over like certain aspects of like, you used the word earlier. It was you're pretty much you're gonna come across haters, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
You're gonna come across people that's gonna say negative things. But if you apply those nuggets to your life and you understand like how it does apply to your life every day, then by the time you blink, you'll be successful. Like I can't even tell you the day. Like I just know it happened over a course of time. But I just remember one day I went to sleep. I woke up, I went back to the tennis course, and I was good. I was just good.
But I mean, that's the exciting part about getting into a new skill, whether it be for a hobby or something professionally that you want to make money doing. It's like if you put enough time and effort into something, there's going to come that moment where you're going to figure out and realize for yourself, wait a minute. Yesterday I really sucked at this, but today I don't suck as much. No. And like that's where the motivation piece comes in. That's where like the desire to keep going with it comes from. It's like you want to keep that progress going and you want to ride that train for as long as you can. And I think to your I think that's sort of a little bit of what the idea of the what was it? You said like follow the racket or
ride my racket as long as possible.
Ride your racket. It's again, ride that racket. Like the progress is happening. People are starting to notice. You're collecting those nuggets, and maybe you have some haters, but I'm sure there's maybe one or two pieces of nuggets you could take from the haters, but you take what's good and what applies to you, you use it, and you keep that drive going. You ride the racket all the way.
Bang.
Bang, boom.
That's the blueprint, y'all.
Nah, so getting into a little bit of the technical side of things, man. So like looking at it, we talked about, college, not college. There's ways you can maneuver the industry without one, with it, etc. But as far as like education that you feel is required or that a business is going to require of someone who is looking to get into tennis, like what sort of certifications, what type of just sort of extracurricular education are you going to need, or is an employer going to expect you to have when looking to kind of go into this field for the first time, or maybe someone who has a little bit of a tennis background? But
I would say it's more so just like your on-court knowledge. Mm-hmm. The certifications and the things that back you. I'm not 100% sure if like the USDA has a code or something like that, or like Illinois has a code where you cannot be a certified teaching coach without these certifications, because that goes into like the legalities of things and things of that nature. But I know certain clubs do require their coaches to have these specific certifications.
Sure.
And so I think that some of the just baseline minimum certifications, just like your USPTR, your United States Tennis Professional Registry.
Got it.
I might have said that wrong, but it's something along that lines, and that's just kind of like certifying you as a baseline teaching coach.
Got it.
So if you have that under your belt, that's 1,000% something that you can just take with you. And then it's per club or per where you go when you apply for some place to see if they want to accept you on that or not. But this is really just an experience-based game. I know some coaches that don't have any certifications, but they can teach somebody all the way up to Wimbledon.
They have such a clout, and they have such a repertoire of knowledge that they come with, that they essentially don't need it.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Now the certifications and the knowledge absolutely helps them, kind of just expand in their knowledge or their wisdom when it comes down to the game. But I know some coaches that have all of these certifications and can't teach a doorknob how to turn left. You know what I'm saying? And so I think in this field, it's more experience based in like, what do you know? You know what I'm saying? I can go, like right now, I feel like I can go anywhere in the world and I can show them what I know. And without them asking my credentials, they would automatically think that I have all of these certifications plus, right?
Your experience sort of transcends what anyone would put on a paper.
1,000%. It's not like I'm applying to be a doctor and I need a doctorate or a PhD or whatever the case may be. It's like that my lab coat is my experience in the game. Can I teach you that knows nothing how to hit a forehand and how to honestly like understand what it means to hit a forehand and a backhand? Now, can I teach you how to apply that when you're moving left and right? Can I teach you like the different speeds of the ball? Just the baseline fundamentals of like what makes a tennis player a tennis player before we get into all of the bells and whistles.
Got it. No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I feel like I had another question, but I forgot. Anything from? Sorry, I'm just like rock and Ron. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. This is a good conversation. So I'm just here listening.
I appreciate y'all, man.
Dude,
this is awesome.
Yeah. So you work full time in tennis, correct?
Correct.
Which is that like, again, this is mainly for the listeners. Like, is that a rare occurrence, or is that like honestly like pretty common in the tennis field to be able to work in tennis full time.
I think that's a little more common.
Got it.
You know, and also it really just depends on where you are too. You see, in the Midwest, we got snow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So indoor tennis pops off during the winter months.
If you can find it.
Sure.
That's the thing. Like, you know, so, but yeah, absolutely. It pops off very well. And then when you go to the outdoor season, now there's outdoor courts and there's coaches that runs these outdoor courts independently. And so some of these coaches, they have their cult followings and they have the people that go with them regardless of where they go. But it's all about like the reputation that you build over the years, and then word of mouth comes and it just spreads like wildfires, you know? And so, you see it more likely in the tennis field, you know, because honestly, like being a teaching pro, it's a career.
Yeah.
You know, you can make an abundance of money, you know, if you know how to direct your space, you know, if you know the clientele that you're looking for, you can make so much, you know, 6 figures, whatever the case may be. It just all depends on how you present this skill that you have, you know. And so that's really like where you place yourself. And then again, word of mouth kind of comes in, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that you find more full-time teaching pros than you do just like part-time pros.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's advantageous to commit full time into this career versus part time, or do you think it doesn't super make a difference? It's really just up to the individual and what time they want to put into it.
I think it's up to the individual.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it's really what you want out of this. You know, again, sometimes you can get sucked into it, you know, and it becomes like a career that you didn't know that you wanted to make a career.
Yeah.
You know, I can honestly say, like, in the position that I'm in now, maybe 5 years ago, did I think that I was going to still be doing this the way that I'm doing it? Honestly not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm blessed to still be in this field and progressing through it every day, every week, you know? And so, yeah, it has become like a career that I didn't know that it was going to look like this. You know, I knew that it was going to look good, but I didn't know it was going to look like this exactly.
Sure.
You know, so yeah.
So on average, like if you had to like put a number to it, like how many classes / private sessions would you say you average a week?
Oh man. Let's just say like maybe, I don't know, last pay period, maybe I had like 90 something hours, man.
90, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, that is insane.
And tennis private?
And that's over 2 weeks, so that's a pay
That's
period.
over
So it's
2
over
weeks,
2
yeah.
weeks. So
That's
you're
Still
looking,
45 a week.
yeah, you're still so
That's
between
impressive.
class,
That's a
so
lot.
45 hours a week. You know, like and again, correct me if I'm wrong. Most tennis lessons anywhere from 30 to an hour. Probably most of them being an hour.
Most of them an hour, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
group classes, you know, at the facility that I'm at, we got group classes that can run from an hour, 60 minutes, then you got some 90 minutes, then you got some 2 hours.
So you're really rocking probably up to, I would say, if I'm gonna guess, probably anywhere from 30 to 45 classes, sessions a week. You're rocking.
Yeah, for sure. Between privates and classes, absolutely.
And as far as your work-life balance goes, do you feel like you still have a good work-life balance with as much as you're committed to doing lessons and classes? Does it lean kind of like, hey, you know what, I'm just where I'm at right now, I'm nose to the grindstone, I'm just working it out, or, you know, et cetera?
I'm working towards the bigger picture.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I really am. So in this moment of my life, I am willing to accept the grind. You know, so it's like if I have to grind, let's just say minimum 80 hours. Let's just say if I have to grind 80 hours per 2 weeks for my tennis job at Midtown, then I'm going to grind another 80 hours for myself.
Yeah.
And I will find the time to do that. So at this point in my life, I'm okay with making a lot of sacrifices. You know, my sleep schedule is very disciplined. Seriously, man, I'm going to sleep between like 6:30 and 8:30 every day, waking up at 1:30 in the morning, and I'm getting to it between 2 and 3 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Because I have to, taking another little nap at maybe like 3:15, 3:20, waking back up at 4:30 to say prayer at 5 and meditate, doing maybe 1,000 push-ups a week. That if I don't have time to go to the gym, that is my gym. You know, I have to make the time so that way I can see the level of success that I want. And it's just ultimately about finding that balance. And I think that, you know, when you're in your, again, I mentioned this earlier about a flow state. I believe when you're in this flow state, you feel unstoppable, you know, and it's one of those things where I do personally feel unstoppable right now because I have God backing me. and I'm very clear on the mission that I need to accomplish right now. And so, as long as I don't get distracted by the flowers on the side of the road, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I can sacrifice a little bit now.
And I'm kind of glad you brought that up because I think that's kind of a good opportunity to kind of shift gears and talk a little bit about music too, because you're very passionate about music, right?
I love it.
So we'll take it back, almost run it back from the top. So we learned about tennis Osiris. Let's talk a little bit about Osiris, the skater, and the musical persona that you've sort of adopted over the years. When did music start to become involved in what you like to do regularly?
So I'm gonna throw another curveball out there. I'm gonna tell you 3 things that kind of like molded me in terms of like my extracurriculars. It was skating, roller skating, number 1, and then it was music, number 2, and then tennis came last. It might have been like tennis and music kind of like crashed into each other at somewhat around the same time. But those are the 3 things that really molded me. You know, with the skating, it was an activity that we did every Saturday. My aunt would pick us all up, me and my cousins, my brother and sister, and we would go to the local skating rink on 87th Street called The Rink, and we would do this every Saturday as an activity. That's where I also got a little bit more social experience. You know, there was a lot of people there. I met some friends there, the whole 9 yards. But then essentially when I was doing that, 2 years later, my life changed a lot in 2 years. It was like 2 and 3 years, but like that started in 2010. I got introduced to the music around the same time in 2010, you know, and through this roller skating, I learned about musicality, and I learned just about like how music is a direct line to your body, you know, and how it just allows you to, again, flow in the direction that the waters are endless. And so I was on the roller skates, just flowing out there, just being a kid that's free, you know what I'm saying? Just really being outside, but inside at the same time. And then through my sister, she used to go to Harold Washington College downtown. And so I would escort her to school, and then I would go to the Harold Washington Library, but they had this safe space in there called U Media. U Media is a place that some of our local rappers, we all know them, like Chance the Rapper and Saba Pivot and Vic Mensa. Some of these guys, this was the same space that these guys started in. Not necessarily started in, but was a pivotal part of their careers.
Yeah.
And so we all shared some of the same mentors and you know, so
the same influences.
Influences like Miss Jovia, shout out to her, Brother Mike, rest in peace to him. You know, these people were like pivotal people in this space. And so me being this homeschool kid, I was in this same space. And so what they did was they gave you access. There was like an after school thing. There was a couple of schools around Harold Washington that would get out early, and they would go to this space. It would open up at 1:30, and then from 1:30 to maybe like 7, 8, or 9 or something like that, it would be open. And they had all these different programs. So it would be like workshops for how to use Pro Tools, or workshops on how to make beats through Fruity Loops and things like that. And then one of the best parts was that they actually had a studio that was built there. So you would give them like your ID, they would give you a laptop, they would give you a mic, and you can go inside the studio for free.
Dude, that's awesome.
For free, bro. So I'm like,
are they still a thing? Are they still operating?
U Media is still operating, but honestly, to this day, I have no idea what type of program, what they got going on.
Like what they're offering as far as programs go.
I know the space is still there though, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so, yeah, man. So I was just involved. So then I started to meet some of my day ones, you know, and these guys was like, yeah, I'm into music, and I just got to seeing like this culture. So it's like, you know, they're rapping and they're ciphering, they're doing a freestyle or whatever the case may be, and I'm just sitting here involved in it. I was still a little shy, so I wasn't always like the forefront, man. You know?
Sure.
I was the guy behind the camera.
Yeah.
I'm recording my homies do this thing, but I also have bars myself, so they knew that I would be hopping on the track here and there. So I got introduced to it through that space called U Media, and through my friends influencing me to actually hop on some tracks. So, you know, between like 2010 and 2012, I was really going hard with just like learning the music, like not producing. I was just the vocalist. You know, just get on the track and rap. And I never really dibbled and dabbled into like the beat making space, but I always was fascinated by it, and my brain just couldn't figure it out like that. It could have, but I didn't take the time to do it. You know, I just wanted to be on the mic. Give me the mic. And so, yeah, man, I mean, music was happening for a while. I started to put out a couple of different EPs. Some of this stuff is still on SoundCloud from a long time ago. It's just crazy. But yeah, that's like some general about the music stuff. yeah, I don't know if I answered your question directly, but
Honestly, didn't even matter. I just enjoyed the story.
okay, yeah, cool.
Honestly, I don't even remember what the question is, player, so it's all good. But I definitely know Ron has some questions about the music side of things. So go ahead, Ron.
Yeah. I wanted to dive into more of the songwriting that you do. So walk us through a typical, process of, writing songs.
It was a couple of different types of processes. You want to know the process now, or like
How you started,
Yeah.
and then how you are now.
Yeah, let's learn about all of them.
in the beginning, it was all just pen and pad. I still have pictures from a while ago of me sitting down with one of my buddies and we're just pen and padding it up. That was like the typical how you get started, just writing your thoughts down, kind of free writing, hearing the beat, seeing how the beat aligns to like your thoughts, and then you just kind of jot this down, jot that down. You might put it down for a second and come back and just pick it back up and start jotting. So that was the initial type of way that I got started with the writing, with making music back then. Then a little bit of freestyle here and there, but I did like the writing portion for years. My pen game was just like my game. People would be like, "Oh, you should freestyle in the booth," and I'm like, "No, I'll write." You can freestyle me off a cliff, but I'll write you under a bus. So what's up? That was my thing. I was ready to really just take the pen to the pad and just do my thing in that space. The process now is completely different because I've learned and I've grown in the music space. Although I still find the beauty of writing for sure, but I also understand the beauty of being able to freestyle because it's very pure to the moment. If you're feeling something and you hear a beat, it's like you have to take time to take out your phone or take out a pen and pad to write these thoughts down. But if you just got the mic, the beat, and you got the headphones and it's just blaring at you and you're just like, yo, I just need to let this out, you just let it out. So in the recent years, I've done different songs where I freestyled a bunch of them, and some of those songs were to this day, in my opinion, are like the best songs that I've made because I see a difference in the way that I became more advanced in this music journey, and so the freestyle nature, I do find the benefit of it, but I'm still like to heart, I'm still really like a writer. So I write still. My last project that I wrote is called Siri. It's an EP. It came out.
I'll definitely. I'll be real with you. I definitely before this interview, I kind of went down the Osiris the skater. I went down the rabbit hole a little bit, listened to some tracks. That way, I at least had some ideas. Plus,
cool,
I like to support my friends and all that stuff.
I appreciate it, man.
But no, I definitely took a listen to, especially like the top 5 tracks were on Spotify and stuff, just to kind of get an idea. I imagine, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This is just how my brain processes stuff. Is like I imagine as you kind of began to start to develop a confidence around the freestyle, it's like I imagine again you're able to convey your emotions and how you feel in a more raw way, because as you take the time to write pen to paper, you're getting in your own head while you're writing it down, and you're like, do I really feel that way versus that way? Where in a freestyle setting, I imagine it's like what you're freestyling in that moment. There's no pure feeling or thoughts going out than what you're saying in the moment. Correct. No filter, right?
Correct.
So I imagine there's a level of catharsis, but also just a level of authenticity to yourself that you get by developing that skill.
Excuse me, absolutely. Freestyling it's tough to do sometimes because your brain overthinks, and so you might be stumbling over your words. But that's how the best freestylers are made. Through trial and error, you have to stumble a little bit to get back up, to know how to get back up. And so when you do freestyle, some things. I remember there's a couple of times I freestyle and I have to record it, and then I'll be like, dang, I didn't record this. I need to see what I said because I said something dope. I'm like, this is raw, man. What you doing? And it's like my pen game is cool, it's dope, but it's like those nuggets that you could produce through freestyling just kind of confirms that you're good at what you do, because you can see yourself putting together these similes and putting together these different these different double entendres, whatever the case may be. You're putting this stuff together as a freestyle, which requires a lot of brain power, and so anybody can do it writing down, but are you capable of being able to produce this same type of frequency when you don't have a pen or a pad to look back on? And so, I'm not the best freestyler, but I can hit a bar or two every now and then here and there doing things.
Are we going to make him do this on
Dude,
podcast?
I
gonna spit a line real quick.
You know what? I mean, I'm down.
Drop a couple bars.
We'll get some more questions because I know we're a little bit on a time crunch with Wilson. But if we got a little time afterwards, I wouldn't. You know what? Spit something out. Let's try it out.
We got 15 minutes, gentlemen.
So, with the music, where do you usually find your inspiration? I mean, songs, listening to them, personal experiences, books you read.
Yeah, man. You could say something right now that inspires me. I can look at you and see a bump on your face and get inspired.
Okay, I don't have any bumps on my face though.
Nah.
I'm like, yo, we didn't tell you that big ass pimple you got.
Rolling over there. Hold on a second.
Oh, Cyrus over here be like, I'm inspired by your acne, brother. No,
I mean, seriously, I don't even know if I'm still rolling over there, but yeah, man, I feel, inspiration can be drawn through anything. For me personally, it was a lot of different experiences, and I'm pretty good at taking other people's experiences and being able to put them in a song as well. But a lot of it just came from my own personal experiences. Even back in the day, I just being very observant. Again, back to being homeschooled, it taught me how to be aware and observant, and really not to be too loud with it, but also to be knowledgeable about what I'm observing and not have to like speak on it all the time, because that's not always the way that we need to operate. Some things are best kept unsaid, but also I go by a philosophy of speak once but listen twice. Just make sure when you speak you're heard. And so through observation, I can get inspired. I know a lot. I'm a lover boy, man. I'll tell y'all, like I'm not a guy that's out here. I can't be that dude that's out here terrorizing people. Like I want to have love. I want to give love. Yeah. And so I write about love, because I was given love growing up through my mom. She raised 3 kids by herself. My dad wasn't always around, and so it's just one of those things where I was instilled good values and morals of love. And so that's really what I write about. All of my songs have some sense of love to them, even if it doesn't sound like it directly, like I'm trying to caress a girl or I'm trying to riz, for lack of a better term, trying to riz a girl up or something. It's coming from a place of love. Like I have this song called Motion, and it's like a dancey type song. Yeah. But the chorus is like, let's roll, we gotta go and have some fun. We brought the vibes, we get it done. She dancing, looking good, she in the zone. No one can match, she get it on. So it's like that chorus was made through love. Like I'm not talking about I'm trying to get in your pants. Yeah. I'm just trying to
there's no ulterior motives here. I just want to have a good time.
I just want to have a good time with you. And I think having a good time is the real definition of love. You know what I'm saying? It's subjective to who gives it and who receives it, but that's love. And so all of my music is just based off love, bro.
Would you say like you write music for you first, or are you writing with your audience based in mind? Because like that to me is what makes a big difference. I feel like with music that resonates with me versus music that I'm kind of like, okay, kind of move on with, is like, I find that a lot of, especially in the musical space or in the artistic space, right? Like the art that resonates with people the most is more often than not art that is written by someone who is writing it for themselves first, that then just happens to resonate with people who relate to those feelings. Would you say that your writing process or your musical process is very similar to that, or does it consider more heavily your audience base in mind before you drop the finished product?
I think that is 2 parts of that. I think in the beginning, when you're figuring yourself out and understanding the type of artist you are, you're writing solely for you. You're just getting it out. You're just getting it out. And the more that it gets out, the more that people can or cannot resonate with it. And then if you really want to take it serious and try to take the music stuff to the next level, you start paying attention to the data. And that's when you start to like keep you, but you have to cater you around the audience that listens to you. And so then it becomes, because, without the artists say it all the time, without you, it's no us. Without you, I will not be me without you. So there's a portion of this world, a big portion of this world, that feeds off of who we are, but it's because of the way that we articulate ourselves to them.
And how we're perceived by our audience base.
Bang.
So it's definitely a middle ground.
It's a middle ground for sure.
Got it.
For sure.
So what habits do you feel like you do that spark creativity in your music, your songwriting?
What habits do I do that spark creativity? Man, I put on some quads. I put on some skates, and I go around the roller rink, and I do this trick, do that trick. That kind of sparks a little creative edge. It's like kind of trying to find a sense of euphoria every day. You're just trying to walk with this same sense every day. And so for me personally, again, like I was saying about, I can notice something about you and it sparks creativity. It's really through the conversations that I have with people. That's why I like talking to people, and I think the tennis space that I'm in now helps me find that creativity, because again, I talk to some fantastic people that you would never even expect to do the things that they do without having a conversation with them. So that just sparks another creative edge out of me, and it inspires me to write something maybe off the wall that I've never even written before. And then, of course, relationships, experiences, and things like that. You know, you have to have certain relationships with people to be able to be inspired in a good, maybe bad, maybe mediocre way, you know? And so I know, like, the last project that I made, Siri, was based on this relationship that I had last year. And it created something different out of me. You know, and it made me dig into my tank and bring something more out of me that I didn't necessarily see that I brought out prior to.
Sure.
And so I was inspired by that relationship going whichever way that it went. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, man, hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Yeah.
You know, it's really just about the experiences that you have that can create inspiration to inspire others or to create some sort of masterpiece, so to speak.
Yeah.
And finding euphoria.
Finding euphoria, man.
So when you're writing, how do you know when a song is truly finished? Like when you get to the end, like this is it, this is done, this is a finished project.
I'm ready to put
this out there. Yeah.
That's a great question. I think it's never ready to put it out there.
Never.
I don't.
You hear that a lot with a lot of things. Yeah.
I don't ever think it's ready to put it out there, but I think that's just the price that we pay as being like risk takers. You know, is being okay with the outcome, even though deep down inside of me, I personally feel like it's not finished.
Yeah.
But having a sense of what finished would look like to the audience that I'm putting it out to. You know, and a lot of people, they just need a good beat. You know, they need a good melody. They need a decent verse, and they need a killer hook or chorus. And then they just need some sort of outro that takes them into a better place of feeling, you know. And so if I can do that, then to me, it might be like 70, 80% done. But to them, it's like 1,000%. This was it. You know, some of the songs that I personally do not like of myself that I put out are people's favorites.
It's almost criminal how that works, though.
It's crazy, bro. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if you like it, I love it. What's up?
Yeah. On that similar vein, though, like when you start listening, now that you have kind of like a wide repertoire of stuff and you've worked on multiple projects at this point, like, how do you like? Do you ever listen to that older stuff and think like, oh shit, okay, that was horrible, and like, how do you talk yourself, or like, how do you talk yourself out of that, of being like, hey, you know what, that was just me of a different time, and I've evolved. I can listen to that stuff and still enjoy it for what it was, but it's not who I am now, or it is a little bit who I am now, and it's just more refined. How do you like? What are some things you tell yourself to get yourself out of that? Like, I fucking suck, or like my old stuff sucks. I'm just gonna quit. You know?
I think that's exactly it. It's a part of who you are. I'm just more refined.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Listening to the old stuff, I was still cold back then. Don't get me started, but you know what I'm saying? But just listening to the old stuff and then listening to the new stuff, you see your development. You know, you see how you transition from an artist, and not just an artist, but you see how you transition as a person, you know, and if you don't pay attention to that, then again, you're going to get lost in maybe the numbers or maybe the accolades you may not be getting right now. You're going to get lost in that. But if you pay attention to yourself, it used to be like, oh man, I wasn't even singing 2 years ago, and now I'm singing. You know, oh man, I was afraid to use auto-tune. Now I'm using it, not too much, but I'm using it a little bit. That enhances my sound. You know, oh man, 10 years ago, I was only writing, but now I'm freestyling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like you have to see these pockets so you can stay on the right course. And
it's almost like those milestones we talked about with tennis, but you almost have like a recorded documentation of that progress, and it's like it has to motivate you. It can tear you down or it can motivate you, and you have to use it as motivation to keep going and keep refining those skills.
1,000%.
Give us your most surreal moment in the music space that you've had.
Oh, that's my most surreal moment. It had to be when my song "Motion" got played on the radio.
Dude, I'm sure. Dude, that has to be like
the best feeling ever.
It was when my song got played on Power 92.3. It was that moment. I stayed up for that moment, and that was like one of the moments where I was just like, man, like I really can't believe this, because my guy Casanova, he played it. And I was listening to it, and he gave me a shout out on the radio. And he was just like, yeah, you know, I'm listening to my boy Osiris the Skater, and here's this new drop, Motion. And then it just played, nah. And I was just like, yo, I'm on the radio game. It was a moment where it was like confirmation of your hard work. You know what I'm saying? Like, because people don't see. I mean, music essentially is just a business. You have to just treat it like a business with the artistic feel on the forefront, but there's layers to the back end.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't just get on the radio just by like putting music out there. No, I had to go connect with people. I had to talk to people. I had to sell myself. I had to let them know that, hey, if you play me, then I'm not going to make your radio station look bad. Like, I'm
going to represent positively.
I have to, you know what I'm saying? And if you trust this, then I appreciate it. But if you don't trust it, I totally understand it too. And so that moment alone just let me know that, God was always working. He's always working.
Hey, so I have one final question. And we talked a lot about tennis, a little bit about music. Maybe we'll bring you back on just to delve a little bit more into the music side. But as far as where you see yourself going with tennis and with music, like where would you like to see that? Where would you like to see progress made, and where would you like to see your career in both of those things start to move towards over the next couple of years, lifetime, whatever?
Okay, I'm going to say this, but I hope that I'm going to say this. I'm not going to give y'all because I don't want to give out too much information.
Sure.
But ultimately, I see myself being a provider of such a space where tennis and music can coincide in each other. You know, and so again, my story it wasn't the best when it came down to like the people that I had supporting me, but I had some good people supporting me in both areas. And I think that, throughout the years, it has taught me how to become that support for others. Yeah. And so, if I'm not the one that's being able to be on stage and singing my songs to 1 million people or whatever the case may be, or teaching a clinic in front of a lot of people, I would love to be able to provide a platform for people where they have the best of both worlds. So, that could be like a very long-term goal, but it starts yesterday. Yep. So, and I've been starting for a long time now.
Hey, well, Osiris, thank you again for chatting with us here at Out of the Rut. Yes. If people wanted to get a hold of you, check out your music, or ask questions about tennis, plug yourself. I love to plug people at the end of this. How do people get a hold of you? How do people look you up? Where is your music at, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. You guys can just look me up on all social media platforms at Osiris the Skater. That's at OSIRISTHESKATR. And you can find my music on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal. Napster if you want. Yeah, man, that's really how you can find me. Osiris the Skater on all platforms throughout the Google.
Hey, well, thank you so much, Osiris, and again, thank you to Wilson for letting us record. Again, that was 60 East Walton Street, 60 East Walton Street in Chicago. Oh, yeah. Recording here. Thank you again, Wilson. Thank you, Osiris. We appreciate you guys.
It was great meeting you.
Yeah, it was great meeting you too. Yo, shout out to Wilson again. Make sure y'all check out your local Wilson store of mine in Chicago. At 60 East Walton Street. We have a lot of cool clothing. We have some nice rackets that's coming out in the development and in the makings. And, our apparel right now is very clean. It's very clean. It's very concise. I don't know if y'all can see this.
I was looking at that jacket.
I was going to say, our boy is looking fly. We're going to get a quick picture after this recording. You got to represent.
Like, Wilson really puts it down. They hold it down. They've been holding it down for years, and now they're in your town trying to hold it down even more. So y'all support and, grab you some Wilson.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. We'll stay lit, never quit, and we'll catch you guys next time on Out of the Rut. Peace.
Thank you so much for listening to us here Out of the Rut. If you guys have any questions, stories, or have any specific field you want us to get into, feel free to reach out to us at outoftherut@yahoo.com. Stay strapped or get clapped. It's your boy Billy,
Ron,
and X. And this was Out of the Rut.